The slap echoed off the gym walls like a thunderclap, my cheek burning hotter than the Texas sun at high noon. "You're my son, Maxwell, not some prancing fairy in tights." Dad's voice cracked, not with anger, but something deeper. Fear, maybe, or the ghost of his own shattered dreams. I tasted blood from where my lips split against my teeth, but I didn't back down. Instead, I straightened my spine, feeling the invisible strings of a pirouette pull me tall, ready to spin away from the man who'd built his empire on broken boys like me. That night in our sprawling ranch house outside Dallas, with the cicadas screaming outside like a Greek chorus, I knew everything I'd hidden was unraveling. Dad, Coach Harlan Iron Reeves, the legend who dragged the Longhorns to 3 national championships and turned farm kids into gridiron gods, had found my secret stash. The worn point shoes tucked under my bed, the dog-eared copies of the Nutcracker scores, the crumpled flyer from the Austin Ballet Academy audition I'd circled in red ink like a forbidden tattoo. He'd burst into my room at midnight, his face a mask of betrayal, holding those relics like evidence in a trial. "What the hell is this, Max? You gonna throw away your future for this?" I was 18, broad-shouldered from years of mandatory weight training, with hands calloused from gripping footballs I hated more than homework. But inside, I was a reed bending in the wind, craving the grace of a grand jeté over the brute force of a tackle. Football was Dad's religion, the gridiron his cathedral, where he'd baptized me at 5 with a mini helmet and whispered promises of glory. "You'll be better than me, son. You'll hoist that trophy under the lights." He'd say it like a vow, his eyes gleaming with the same fire that had him screaming sidelines until his voice gave out. Mom had died when I was 10. Cancer, quick and cruel, leaving him to raise me alone, pouring all his love into the game that had saved him from the bottle after her funeral. But ballet? That was my rebellion, born in the shadows of those endless practices. It started sophomore year, sneaking into the community center after school, drawn by the thump of Tchaikovsky leaking through the cracked door. The dancers, lithe bodies twisting like smoke, defying gravity with every lift, made my chest ache with a hunger I couldn't name. I lied to Dad about extra conditioning, slipping into class in oversized sweats to hide my frame. Madame Elena, the Russian exile with hands like bird wings, saw through me in 10 seconds. "You have power, boy, but power without poetry is just noise." She taught me to channel the brute strength Dad had forged into something fluid, something mine. That's where I met Oliver. He was a year older, a transfer from Chicago with cheekbones sharp enough to cut glass and eyes the color of storm clouds over the plains. Oliver danced like he was born in silk, effortless, unapologetic, his dark curls matted with sweat as he executed a series of fouettes that left the room breathless. He was out, loud about it, with a pride pin on his bag and a laugh that cut through the mirror's reflections. Our first duet was assigned by Elena, a pas de deux from Giselle, all longing glances and tentative touches. His hand on my waist felt like the first real anchor I'd known, steadying the storm inside me. We didn't talk much at first, just breaths sinking in the studio's humid air, our bodies learning each other's rhythms. But after class, over greasy tacos at the taqueria down the block, the words spilled out. "My folks shipped me here after the divorce," he confessed one evening, ketchup smeared on his lip like war paint. "Dad caught me kissing a boy at prom, said I was ruining the family name. Mom just cried and signed the papers." His voice was light, but his eyes weren't, haunted, like he'd danced too close to the edge of a cliff. I nodded, throat tight, because I knew that cliff intimately. "Mine's the king of the field. Expects me to crown him with a Heisman someday." Oliver's grin was wry, a flash of defiance. "Then we'll just have to pirouette right past him." Falling for him was inevitable, like the pull of a tide. Our rehearsals stretched late, the studio emptying until it was just us, mirrors multiplying our shadows into an infinite embrace. He'd trace the lines of my scars, tackle bruises fading to yellow, and murmur, "These aren't flaws, Max. They're your armor." Kisses came soft at first, tentative as a first ply, then fierce, like the crescendo of Swan Lake. Oliver made me believe I could be whole. Athlete and artist, son and lover, straight-laced Texan and something beautifully bent. We dreamed aloud, him to Juilliard, me to a summer intensive in New York, away from Dad's shadow. We'll build our own stage, he'd say, forehead pressed to mine. One where no one's booing from the wings. But secrets in a small town fester like untreated wounds. Dad started noticing. The late nights, the aches from conditioning that weren't from sprints. He'd grill me over dinner, his fork stabbing his steak like it was an opponent. You slacking, son? Reeves' men don't quit. I'd mumble excuses, heart hammering, while Oliver texted under the table. Miss your lift already. The betrayal came slow, insidious. A teammate spotting me at the studio, whispering to his buddies, the rumor mill grinding until it reached Dad's ears. It exploded 2 weeks before homecoming. I came home to find Dad in the living room, TV blaring a replay of his glory days. But his eyes were on me, cold, unyielding. Saw you on YouTube, Max prancing around with that. That boy. The video was grainy, shot from a phone. Oliver and me in a stolen moment, his arms around my waist mid-lift, our laughter frozen in pixels. Someone had posted it to the team group chat, caption coach's kid gone rogue. Dad's face twisted, not just rage, but a grief so raw it hollowed him out. I gave you everything, and you repay me with this? Shame on our name. The fight was biblical, words like lobs in overtime. He called me weak, a disappointment, a fairy who'd never amount to man enough for the field or the family. I fired back, voice breaking. You gave me chains, Dad, not wings. Ballet's the only place I fly. He grabbed my arm, grip like a vice, and for a second, I thought he'd swing again. But he let go, deflating like a punctured ball. Get out. Don't come back till you remember who you are. The door slammed behind me, the night air thick with regret. I crashed at Oliver's aunt's place. A cramped apartment in East Dallas, posters of Nijinsky peeling from the walls. He held me that night. No words, just the rise and fall of his chest against mine. A silent bolero. But the wound went deeper than skin. Dad pulled strings. Benched me from the team indefinitely. Spread word to the scouts that I was unreliable. The town turned whisper sharp. Stares in the grocery aisle. Texts from old friends laced with fag and quitter. Even Elena pulled me aside. Focus, Maxwell. The audition's your redemption. But how do you leap when your heart's leaden? The climax hit like a storm front on audition day. The Austin Theater buzzed. Kids from across the state, all nerves and ambition. But I was a ghost, replaying Dad's words in loop. Oliver squeezed my hand backstage. This is us, Max. Our myth. My solo was Apollo, the god torn between muses, strength and grace, earth and air. I poured it out. Every shove on the field, every stolen spin, the slap's sting and Oliver's kiss. The panel leaned forward, pencil still, as I vaulted into the final attitude, landing with a thud that echoed my resolve. But fate's a cruel choreographer. As the callbacks posted, my name glowing third, I spotted him in the lobby. Dad, hulking in his Letterman jacket, face ashen. He'd driven 3 hours, alone. The truck's bed empty of the cooler he always packed for games. Heard about the audition, he muttered, eyes on the floor. Thought, maybe I should see. The air thickened, unspoken apologies hanging like fog. Oliver hovered nearby, a quiet sentinel. But this was our duet now. We drove home in silence, the highway blurring into gold and shadow. At a rest stop under sodium lamps buzzing like fireflies, he broke. I was scared. Max, scared you'd slip away like your mom. Football. It's all I know how to give. Tears carved tracks down his weathered cheeks. The iron coach crumbling to Harlan, the widower who'd lost his way. I reached for his hand, rough, scarred from years of slaps on helmets, and felt the tremor. I love you, Dad, but I need to love this too. And him. I nodded toward Oliver, waiting by the car, his silhouette a promise. Betrayal's sting faded not in forgiveness, but understanding. The human knot of fear and love, twisted tight. Dad didn't cheer at my first professional gig 6 months later, a small role with the Houston Ballet, but he sent flowers. Carnations, tough and red like Texas dirt, with a note. Proud of your fight, son. Break a leg. Oliver and I moved to New York that summer. Him to classes, me to understudy. Our apartment a shoebox overlooking the Hudson, where we dance in socks till dawn. It's been years now. Dad retired last season. Took up woodworking in the garage, carving little ballerinas from oak scraps he leaves on my doorstep when I visit. We talk football sometimes, over beers on the porch, but mostly about the spaces in between, the grace in a well-thrown pass, the power in a quiet hold. Oliver's my constant, our love a steady allegro amid life's adagios. In the end, it's not about choosing sides, but weaving them whole. The boy who dreamed of Tool under Friday night lights, finding his footing in the space where they meet.